and welcome, my dear friends, to our Lenten webinar, Vigil number 40, and it's for Sunday, Palm Sunday, or as we say in Ireland and parts of America, Passion Sunday. So we begin with our reflection, and the theme of this reflection is the triumphal entry of who? Of the Lord Christ. Mile after uphill mile, it seems a long way even today in a car. You wind up through the sandy hills from Jericho, the lowest point on the face of the earth, through the Judean desert climbing all the way. Halfway up you reach sea level. You've already climbed a long way from the Jordan Valley, and you still have to ascend a fair-sized mountain. It is almost always hot. Since it seldom ever rains, it's almost always dusty as well. That was the way the pilgrims came, with Jesus going on ahead as he had planned all along. This was to be the climax of his story, of his public career, of his vocation. He knew well enough what lay ahead and had set his face to go and meet it head on. He couldn't stop announcing the kingdom, but that announcement could only come, and especially come true, if he now embodied in himself the things he'd been talking about. The living God was at work to heal and to save, and the forces of evil were massed to oppose him, like Pharaoh and the armies of Egypt, trying to prevent the Israelites from leaving. But this was to be the moment of God's new exodus, God's great Passover, and nothing could stop Jesus going ahead to celebrate it. For Jesus, it's a royal occasion to be carefully planned and staged, so as to make exactly the right point. The animal he chose, presumably by pre-arrangement with the owners, this wasn't the first time Jesus had been to Bethany, was a young foal, almost certainly a donkey's colt. Like the tomb in which Jesus would lie a week later, it had never been used before. The disciples pick up the theme, and in a kind of instant royal celebration, they spread cloaks along the road for him. Down they go, down the steep path to the Kidron Valley, and the crowds start to sing. Yes, they sing a song of victory, a hymn of praise to God, who defeats all his foes and establishes his kingdom. And Jesus will quote from the psalm in one of his debates in Jerusalem. He comes himself as the fulfillment of the nation's hopes, answering their longings for a king who would bring peace to the earth from heaven itself. And yet the grumblings are still there. Some Pharisees going along with the crowd suddenly become anxious about what will happen if the authorities in Jerusalem think for a minute that there's a messianic demonstration going on. Jesus knows, and Luke knows, and we know what awaits the Master when he gets to the city. From Jesus' point of view, this is why there is such celebration in the first place. It is appropriate precisely because he is coming to bring God's salvation, God's great exodus through his own Passover action on the cross. Had the crowds known this, they would have been puzzled and distressed, as indeed they soon will be. As we arrive at Jerusalem with Jesus, the question presses upon us, are we going along for the trip in the hope that Jesus will fulfill some of our hopes and desires? Are we ready to sing a psalm of praise, but only as long as Jesus seems to be doing what we want? The long and dusty pilgrim way of our lives gives most of us plenty of time to sort out the motives for following Jesus in the first place. Are we ready not only to spread our cloaks on the road in front of him, to do the showy and flamboyant thing, but also now to follow him into trouble, controversy, trial and death? Are we? That was an extract taken from Luke for Everyone by Tom Wright. And he leaves us a scripture reading from St. Luke chapter 19, verses 28 to 40. As he rode along, people kept spreading their cloaks on the road. What an amazing sight. So let us reflect on those words, for they are speaking volumes to my heart of my own unworthiness. And on a personal level, that Jesus, the Son of God, gave his life for me, that I might enjoy the fruits of his labors, of being in divine service, as you are too. For we are all monks and nuns, okay, not in the traditional sense, but we are all children of the same loving God, and God invites us to surrender our hearts to his. And that internal surrender, that inner knowing that we belong to God, is the most beautiful knowing for this generation. For we live in a despiritualized society where so many are adrift, unsure of who they are. Many spend a lot of money, hard-earned money, on therapies to try and ease their own problems, maybe their guilt. But you know, all Jesus asks is to surrender your heart and leave the rest to God. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to surrender your heart to a loving God who gave their only Son that you could be free? It's difficult to comprehend, I know. It's taken me many, many years. And as a young nursing monk, I didn't fully comprehend what I understand now, that this young man voluntarily surrendered his life so that you and I could be free of evil. Let us be still. And as we enter now Holy Week, let there be no fear in our heart, only joy. Joy that we are loved, that we are a child of God, and whatever our past, whatever our mistakes, that Jesus is there waiting to welcome us like the prodigal son and the father of the prodigal son, who runs to meet his son, though he knows he squandered everything like you and me. And if God can love me and accept me, who's done some pretty horrendous things, one of them was denial, where I was just totally out of it and stupid. Irresponsible comes to my heart. But I was insecure, immature. But now I'm beginning to understand the bigger picture, that Holy Week is a story of the greatest love story ever told for me. That a young man, the Son of God, would give his life to let me be free. I'll stop there, because if I carry on, I'll be crying, because it affects me on a very deep level to think that God could do this for me, a sinner. Let us close with a beautiful prayer. Lord, as you enter Jerusalem for your passion, rouse us from our apathy, deliver us from coziness, rescue us from complacency, and as we make this pilgrimage with you this Holy Week, teach us the lessons of the cross. Draw us closer to you, who out of love lay down your life for us, that we may love you with all our hearts others, and so loving you, may learn to serve you as children of your kingdom. What a beautiful prayer. And with that prayer I leave you and look forward to your company on Monday evening, where we will gather around the Christ and offer him our loving support. The peace of God be in your heart. The peace of Christ reigns supreme in your heart. Bless you.